The next intensive session will be powered by Professor Yu from Chung-Ang University. The title is How to Make a Social System Bioethics. So, please.
Thank you. Good morning. This presentation has a title, How to Make a Social System of Bioethics. In this presentation, I focused on the social system. It's very different from the education of bioethics that mainly depended on the enlightenment of the individual enlightenment of bioethics. So I think it is very necessary to think about a social system. In this presentation, it means a social functional system, a functional system that makes people and many other policies and other related things to keep the bioethical practice altogether. Yeah, and this idea is still under my study about the social system, especially related to the German sociological scholar, Niklas Luhmann. So, in this presentation, I make my attempt how to approach to the idea of a social system. So, okay. My presentation consists of 4 parts. The first is pending issues and bioethics. Second, unsolved problems related to the social system. Third is approach to social system. So in this part, I will shortly introduce the idea of social systems. And finally, I approach to how to establish a bioethical system. Okay. The first part is pending issues and bioethics. So many reports about the climate change and the environmental destruction. So we feel so many dangerous phenomena, and we should have a practical approach to this dangerous phenomena. So, okay, I have not much time, so shortly introduce some reports. There is a New York Times magazine, yeah. But I hope you read if you have time. So in this magazine report, I felt some problems in the human groups. There is like this. Scientist groups have proposed evidences of climate changes and urged to deal with the problem. But businessmen and enterprises, for example, ExxonMobil, have been denying the scientists' warning. and the congresspersons and the administrators have been putting around. This means every human has the same idea about our phenomena. And another report shows many problems about climate changes, and recently a report from U.S. government, the second one, the report puts the most precise price tags to date on the cost of the United States economy of projected climate impacts. This one is a very new one that calculates the economical loss that related to the climate change. So this report explains the climate change and the human activities are very closely related. Earth's climate is now changing faster than at any point in the history of modern civilization, primarily as a result of human activities. The impacts of global climate change are already being felt in the United States and are projected to intensify in the future. But the severity of future impacts will depend largely on actions taken to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to adapt to the changes that will occur. Especially that is related to Americans, but I think it could be related to all the human beings. So Americans increasingly recognize the risks climate change poses to their everyday lives and their livelihoods, and are beginning to respond. This is very important, I think, because the climate change has general causes that caused by everyday lives and the livelihood. That means our lifestyle is very much related to the climate change. So we are to have a arrangement of our lifestyle along with the bioethics. This is my focusing. I will show this picture and pass. Okay. And 2015, the United Nations Summit claimed the 2030 agenda for sustainable development. I think this agenda could be related to all human beings. Every society and every human beings all together should make efforts to change the direction of our life or our daily life. I need to mention about social integration. Many society have made so many efforts, but it needs more. In other words, even though education and legislations are necessary, education should be led to awareness revolution in all members of a nation as legislation to adjustment or modification of a stream of members' collective behavior. In this sense, it is closely related to an urgent need of social integration, necessarily with bioethics. So I took some sentences from Wikipedia that about social integration. Okay, I read. A higher extent of social integration contribute to a closer social distance between groups and to more consistent values and practice. In a broader view, social integration is a dynamic and a structured process in which all members participate in dialogue to achieve and maintain peaceful social relations. Social integration does not mean forced assimilation, for example, by government or other dictators. Social integration is focused on the need to move toward a safe, stable, and just society by mending conditions of social disintegration, social exclusion, social fragmentation, and polarization, and by expanding and strengthening conditions of social integration towards peaceful social relations of coexistence, collaboration, and cohesion. Such social integration, along with the United Nations Agenda, Sustainable Development, is thought that an emerging social order of bioethics is being required on the globe. Many societies more or less tries to promote the performance of what are connected to sustainability by legislation and education, and many profit-making enterprises are taking sustainability as their core aim or major justification. Those things in societies and enterprises are showing a meaningful changeover. Nevertheless, social integration based on the United Nations Agenda of Sustainable Development seems to be required at present time in order to involve more members of every society in order for keeping the global ecology. Definitely, legislations for bioethics in many countries and educations in many professional fields associated with bioethics mean quite nice advancement in realization of bioethics. But it is still questionable whether bioethics could be a mainstream to keep the global environment. If we should promote the social integration according to the agenda of sustainable development, what is our common mission? I think it is construction of a new order based on bioethics that can integrate human actions and social behaviors into keeping the global environment. So, okay, I skip this one. Okay, this third one. If each society establishes a general order of bioethics and profit-making companies applying smart technologies for protecting the environment are supporting the order, it might be very hopeful. But without such a general order of bioethics, any development could not be effective in keeping the globe from falling down into an uninhabitable planet, and enlightenment of individual consciousness could not be so effective as to switch the present stream for the destruction of the global ecology. So, I think we have tried to have a hypothetical reasoning for making a social system of bioethics. This presentation makes a hypothetical reasoning that designs an influential way to draw more general public into practice of bioethics, and to raise a stream of autonomously keeping the environment in daily living. But before reasoning, pay attention to reality of ethics. Ethics in most traditional societies look to have one of major roles in social integration. However, in the present time, the role of ethics doesn't seem so ruling over other things as in the past. Even it is said that nihilism in practice of ethics are prevalent in most societies. The nihilism is due to a situation that despite of intensified education of ethics in schools and institutes, people wouldn't lay emphasis on ethical practice. That is essence. The nihilism might mean at least two things. Current educational methodology of ethics in most societies is not effective. And ethics didn't become so influential to integrate a society as in the past time. Discussion about educational methodology is not a core theme of this presentation, but how to recover from weakness of ethical influence in making social integration is the theme of this discussion. In this connection, let me discuss about pending problems. Okay, in the next slide. So, topics as unsolved problems. The first one is a nihilistic situation is ethics. Is prevalent in most of societies. It means that despite of regular and frequent education, social motives for ethical living are reducing in most places, and the estimation of morality of a person cannot hold the most important valuation in a society anymore. Enlightenment of individual by current education of ethics has not been so effective as to properly practice ethics in daily living. And the inefficient practice in the field of bioethics is very similar, or rather more serious. Bioethics based on ecological paradigm is relatively newly emerged in recent time, and most people are not so much embodied as ethics that has been fixed for a long time of human history. Therefore, it is more difficult to set the bioethics not only in individual system, but as a society's functional system. As mentioned before, in spite that most people think ethics is very important and necessary to sustain every society, why the nihilism in practice of ethics are becoming more prevalent. Okay, the second one is I introduced the idea of Francisco Varela. That is the problem lies in the embodiment of ethics in daily living. I skip to third one. We are looking at such a situation very seriously. What makes it possible to make a social order for prevention from nihilistic trend or remedy for such a situation? In this presentation, let me focus on a social system that functionally lead people to practice an embodiment of ethics, bioethics. To set the bioethics as a social system means to form a social order that leads its members to practice bioethics in their routine. In other words, any society should advance by forming its functional system toward the ritualization of bioethical practice or routine custom of bioethics in members' daily living. Even if its influence is now so weakened, ethics has so for a long time in history provided members with common behavior norms and rituals and thereby could make a social integration. Ethics has successfully operated as a social system. For a similar reason, bioethics could have provided social members with common norms and rituals to protect the living system of the globe and contributed much more to people's embodiment of bioethics in daily living. However, except some professionals or experts or institutions that must obey laws of bioethics and lead the bioethical practice, most members, the general public, living is in general irrelevant to bioethics and could even exercise an evil influence on the global living system. Therefore, I hope that bioethics could make a much more non-professional populations on the globe join in the bioethical practice in daily living. In previous presentations, I have reported the importance of ritualization of bioethics in daily living because it is a way to establish an autonomous system in every individual and move for bioethical life. However, although it is quite necessary to make progress in practice of bioethics aiming at personal embodiment, it is nothing but a part of a whole progress. According to sociological viewpoint of Talcott Parsons, individual human behavior is a part of a whole social behavior. According to another sociological viewpoint of Nicholas Luhmann, personal systems of mind are also a part of a whole behavior of society. The sociological ideas lead us to view conditions of bioethical practice as not only related to individual consciousness, but led by social systems. The sociological insights give a new perspective on social integration that is very different from perspectives of philosophy or ethics that share an old belief in that enlightenment of individual consciousness can directly be effective in changing a society. In fact, it should be debated on whether enlightenment of consciousness could directly make up social integration or not. In the 1970s, German academic circle has had a famous and interesting debates between Nicholas Luhmann and Wilhelm Habermas in which they disputed over whether communication between humans was feasible or not, and whether society could thereby move to rational situation or not. Consequently, Habermas, who insisted that mutual communications made a harmonious and reasonable society, backed down his communication theory by acceptance of Luhmann's social engineering theory that explained the communications between humans as an impossible thing because each individual mind is a closed system that cannot communicate to each other without distorting of meaning. Should we follow Habermas's communication theory, bioethical enlightenment of individuals and professionals could be a way to directly get to a social integration that is necessary for sustainable development. Additionally, we should foster public sphere to have debate and communications. However, Luhmann's criticism demonstrates it's caught up in a fantasy. In fact, for a long time, philosophical approaches have not properly dealt with how a society operates. Luhmann's theory looked at an operating system as a social order upon another level of society that is different from amount of individual members' consciousness. According to Luhmann, every individual is actually a closed psychological system, and in the sense, one cannot understand the original meaning others speaks. And the essence of dialogue is only misunderstanding between both. That is understanding of others' words depending one's own way. Because because of a very different, respectively different structure of understanding or experience. According to him, what makes a social integration is a system that gives all members synchronization with a unique set of values or form of estimation. In addition to such impossibility of unity by individual level communications, Luhmann observed a very radical change in social system from pre-modern to modern times. He explained the difference between pre-modern society and modern one in their social systems. Okay, I skipped. Skip to the one. In such a pre-modern society, ethics supporting the social status system could exclusively contribute to social integration. However, in modern society, many different functional systems, for example, political system, economic system, education system, religion system, science, arts, organization, intimacy, ethics, etc. There are so many functional systems respectively operating. They are running parallel with each other, and thus ethical system is already weakened its effectiveness in ruling over and influencing individual and society. Okay, so I skip all slides of unsolved problems and to start about social system. Okay. To establish a functional system of bioethics is to add a functional system or bioethics to the bioethics to the established other functional ones. In case of the foundation, we consider necessary conditions for the foundation. Okay. This is what is the social system is concept. I skipped. I mainly introduce three conditions of shaping a social order by Niklas Luhmann. The first one is adaptation in normative in level of time. It's very important. It is a dynamic process. Formation of role in level of fact. The third is institutionalization or legislation in level of society. And under condition that the three should be interconnected successfully, a stable expectation for the system could be established in a society. The first condition, adaptation in normative in level of time, could cause another effect. That is, as time advances, power of bioethics will increase. Second condition, formation of role in level of fact, cause possibilities grow by expanding of bioethical reality. And the third one, the institutionalization or legislation in level of society could make such possibilities gear with the social restraints. With such changes or improvement, the social system could maintain itself. This is about the fixation of the social order or system by stabilization of expectation. According to Luhmann theory, the stabilization of expectation is very necessary to form a social functional network system. Okay, there is this expectation are also three kinds. Expectation of time guarantee of participants' influx, and expectation of usefulness within settled reality. And finally, expectation of potential backing of participants. After all, the social system could maintain itself by stabilization of expectations in each level of time, fact, and society. According to this change, social order can be fixed and activated. Stabilization of expectation means like that expectation for norms guaranteed of validity against violation or breaks. Formation of law that meets demand required within regular bounds. Social institutionalization for expectation and its content. These three stabilization expectations. These three stabilized expectations that lead the emerging functional system to take root in the general system. Okay. I'm sorry. Yeah. I close?
Up to you.
Okay, thank you. Requirement of functional system bioethics. Bioethics has been recognized as an important ethics in many countries, but its social function is limited to control illegal actions that are against the legislations of bioethics and cannot actually coordinate most people to obey bioethical norms and keep environment from destruction. Although every country has different circumstances, it looks right that most countries have not yet arranged a set of elaborated norms of bioethics that should be ritualized in daily living. Even to shape a functional system of bioethics seems still far off. However, like climate change, huge trash island, rise of seawater level, destruction of global ecological system, and so on, we are increasingly facing more serious feedback of whole destructive behaviors of human population on the globe. Also, the situation is not the same in every country. It is probably urgent task for whole mankind to synchronize their living style along with the norms of bioethics. For necessity of the synchronization, we have discussed about establishment of a functional system in a society. However, bioethics in most countries is functioning as legislations to control a group of experts and professionals and is not doing a set of rituals that makes the general public embody bioethical norms. What's worse, some politician denies the climate change as a wrong hypothesis and thus backward some policies that have bad influences on the climate changes. Okay. The core idea of this presentation is that enlightenment of individual consciousness is not a just method. Because it is very difficult to, or even impossible to integrate the social behavior of a society along with bioethics, no matter how much the general public's consciousness is enlightened. The three conditions may be the least but fully necessary ones in order to construct a functional system of bioethics that can synchronize whole activities of society into a track of bioethical protection of the globe. Already many countries build up institutionalization for realization of bioethical performance in professional fields, and it might be counted as a successful substructure for routing the bioethics as a system. It should nevertheless be expanded to the general public's routine activities that are actually and constantly generating better influences on the global ecology. Patterns of goods consumption, use of fuels for transportation, heating and air conditioning, recycling, waste discharge, style and pattern of dressing, eating menu, etc. are all included into bioethical consideration. In addition, how to synchronize different and diversely conflicting things among individuals as interested behavior pattern, embodied values, degree of education, lifestyle, etc., should honestly be discussed to raise a stream of bioethical practice in the whole society level. Okay, yeah, it's okay. Thank you so much. Sorry.
Thank you, Professor Yu. Now I want to summarize your presentation, but in a very rough outline. Professor Yu said that individual-based bioethics is not effective for the prevention of climate change. The most important and urgent issue in the world. He mentioned the Habermas versus Luhmann controversy, and so individual system is not open but closed. So the individual-based bioethics cannot attain the purpose of one purpose of prevention of climate change by means of consensus formation. And I hope your individual system and my individual system is not so strictly closed. So we can discuss with each other. And instead of individual-based bioethics, he proposed social system-based bioethics. And social system-based bioethics, about it, he referred to Nicholas Luhmann's theory of social systems. And the key point is there are many kinds of systems, individual social systems and the whole social systems, and so on. And we have to synchronize some kind of systems to realize the purpose. And he mentioned about the difference between pre-modern times and modern times. Pre-modern times, ethics can be a center of the whole social system. So it can be a base of the rule or norms of society. But in pre-modern society, there are many kinds of circles, systems, interconnecting with each other, correlating with each other. And ethics is only one system. Then it lost the power of controlling the whole system. It is what I understand. Okay.
Very correctly.
And
you pointed.
And for my position, so I would like to state about my position on ethical theory. Ethics and morality, ethics is from ethos, And morality is from mores. And mores and ethos, original meaning is a practice and a custom. So ethics and morality, and especially ethics, is custom or practice, or custom or practice support ethics, ethical norms. And I think it is rather difficult to force the ethical norm to custom. To make it custom is very difficult. And then, well, what should we do to make the ethical norms custom? So it is by legislating or education, but you opposed the idea. It is individual-based bioethics. But my idea is the issue is how to make people accept the prevention, accept the importance of the prevention of climate change in this context. So custom and practice are accepted by people, accepted. So acceptance is crucial in the theory of ethics. And what kind of rules are acceptable? We have to find out what kind of rules. And many philosophers researched, for example, equality or formal justice is very fundamental ethical rules. So it must be accepted. But it is very absolute, and we have to find more concrete norms. But it is not easy. And if we find the acceptable rules, and then we can prompt people to accept such kind of rules. For example, showing the dangerous results of climate change, and so on. And about but time is not not left enough. So I skipped my point. And the Christians, this is I stated my position. It may be called conservative position of ethics. And what kind of points can you add to my position by using Nicholas Luhmann's idea? Yes, the first. And the second question is, in abstract, you make emphasis on the system of economy, but not in your presentation. You skipped it. So is there any reason for skipping it?
System of
The second, yes, system of economics. Very important. I think so. Because religion and economy are very important elements. And the third question is the you showed the slide adaptation in normative in level of time, formation role in level of fact, institutionalization or legislation level of society. And they are interconnected. uninterconnected is, does it mean simultaneous? Simultaneously occur or not? And you explained from the adaptation and to expectation. But I want to know that process more in detail. That is the last question.
Thank you so much. Very detailed comments and response. So it is impossible to answer this time, but it's my task. I should study more. But his what he pointed is very clear, and what could be debated in every conference, because Nicholas Luhmann has a very unique and very different idea from the general understanding of the human individual consciousness and social behavior. As I mentioned in my slides, traditionally, the most philosophers and other sociologists understand that the individual consciousness could be the bridge to the social behavior. So if individuals are rightly, properly enlightened, the social situation will be improved. But Nicholas Luhmann denied such a traditional understanding because even though the education gives the same idea to every individual, every individual as every individual cannot understand and cannot make their action accordingly to the education, because every individual has constructed his or her own experiential structure. So that means every person has his or her own understandings. So the Nicholas Luhmann theory has a speciality because of such a point. That is a very special point. And according to his understanding, the Habermas communication theory could not be justified. His understanding has a structure. Education or enlightenment of the individual can be resulted into the social harmony, social unity. But it's not a possible way to make a social integration, according to Luhmann. So my personal attitude is not totally agreed to him, but I think we need to draw his understanding to our discussion. Because nowadays most discussion about the bioethics has a general level, only enlightenment of the human individual enlightenment of consciousness. So we share confidence. The individual enlightenment can make society improvement, but it must be reconsidered. Okay, there's so many questions Professor Akash gave me, but okay, I will give my answer next time. So many things. Thank you so much. Any other? Okay.
It's only 15 minutes.
Oh, okay.
It's only,
So?
it's only 15 minutes.
Ah,
It's only 15 minutes.
okay. Anyone?
Questions? Yeah, questions, go ahead.
Can I use your microphone? So one of the basic bioethical principles is autonomy,
Yeah.
and autonomy actually is quite advancing. People want to behave the way they choose, and then to influence behavior, I don't think education is very useful because people learn in the society. We have social learning, we have observation of society, and people learn from the society. And when the society is following, especially, for example, consumerism to advance economy, how can you, teach them something different? And the system of bioethics is very complex. It includes a lot of different behaviors, values. Each one may need to be, kind of established, worked on separately. I did a study 2 years ago on our students, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, regarding their attitude and behavior about cosmetic surgery. The results are so different, like I realized Korean students had a totally different attitude, very different values. Each one of them would require a lot of work, and they were learning from the society. So my question is, how can you preserve autonomy of people and at the same time try to establish a system that is not supported by what happens in the society?
Very significant questions, and I agree to your idea that autonomy is very important. So what we should make a discussion is about how to generate the autonomy. But the cause for the autonomy is not simple. It's from education and from outside, and from inside. Every individual should embody the legislations or norms, and other social influential stream is very important. If there is no such stream, every individual cannot pay attention to such importance of bioethics. So it's a very complicated and complexly related thing. So at the time, I think I am not the expert of bioethics, but philosopher. But I observed in this discussion or other conferences in Korea, most philosophers pay attention to individual level, individual consciousness, enlightenment. but in sociology, they have another level discussion. There is a social behavior that includes the individuals as a part. It's only part, not the whole. So, I think we should make a new approach to the complexity and complicated relations, the whole society and the whole social behavior. So that's why I mentioned about the Nicholas Luma. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Please